Thinking about launching a podcast but overwhelmed by all the moving parts? At TurnKey Podcast Productions, we take the hassle out of podcasting so you can focus on the talk, not the tech. From concept to launch, guest booking to post-production, we handle everything. Need a strategy to grow your show and turn guests into clients? Yep, we do that too. DIY or done for you, we've got the solution that fits. Whether you're just getting started or ready to scale, TurnKey is your behind-the-scenes podcast team. TurnKey Podcast Productions. Your voice, your message, fully produced. Learn more at turnkeypodcast.com/contact. That's turnkeypodcast.com/contact.
Here's what's next on the Nice Guys on Business.
The app will figure that out at a high level. It will then run an alignment matrix to see, oh, this guy golfs like crazy. You love golf. This guy skis. You ski. It'll really start to dig in. Mm-hmm. And then it's actually going to come in and manufacture 3 different types of outreach messages where you can set the tone. We literally write the letters for you.
That's great.
And it's like, Dear Doug, I noticed, I've been following you for a while. I noticed you're doing this and doing that. We're going to connect on a different level. I'd love to talk to you about your interviewing style, because I know mine can always improve. Now, you may get back to me because maybe you think, oh, all right, maybe I can get Gary as a client. But in the very least, you and I are going to have a good conversation.
Right.
And I'm probably not even going to mention money. And at some point, you're going to say, hey, I noticed you do this, that, or the other thing. What do you look for? And that's the beginning of the conversation. But we've got a baseline that we've established a connection.
Right.
That's what this app does.
I'm going to put it right on the line. There's been a lot of complaints already. Fooling around on the course, bad language, smoking grass, poor caddying. If you guys want to get fired, just keep it up. If you want to get replaced by golf carts or the Nice Guys on Business, go from where you are now to where you could be. Get expert tips to grow your business, to be more productive and more efficient, whether you're trying to build influence, grow your community, or make it rain. Best-selling author of Nice Guys Finish First, Doug Sandler, can lead the way. The Nice Guys on Business is produced by TurnKey Podcast Productions. Now, here's your host, Doug Sandler.
All right, Nice Guy community. Today's guest, he is the guy entrepreneurs will instantly vibe with. Gary Sinderbrand is the host of If the Public Only Knew, the podcast that rips away the highlight reel and digs into the real, messy, game-changing lessons behind today's boldest founders and leaders. Now, Gary has spent 35 years in the trenches training over 12,000 financial advisors, watching why most succeed and why 90% tend to crash and burn. That experience and a wild imagination that he had led him to build this company called Archematch and the RainMakerApp as well. They're both AI-driven platforms that matches advisors to prospects based on the psychological fit and delivers response rates 10x higher than the norm. Now, if all of that was fuzzy to you, no worries. Just stay tuned. Really, what we're going to talk about is some messy lessons that not only Gary has learned, but a lot of the guests on his show, and what he is learning as he is entering this world of artificial intelligence. And when most guys that are my age are having conversations, they're usually talking about lessons that they've learned, but not for Gary. Gary is doing that, and he's forging forward in this new AI world of technology. Now, if you're building a business, reinventing one, or just trying not to lose your mind in the process, Gary's story is full of hard-won insights that you actually need. Gary, I'm excited to chat with you. My friend, my client, my good person. Welcome to the Nice Guys on Business podcast.
Great to be with you, Doug. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to have you. And I want to start with part of what I said in my intro. When guys that are my age are talking about AI, they're usually talking about being lost. And when you're talking about AI and technology, you envelop it, you embrace it, you bring it into your world. You're excited about it. I'm challenged with just understanding how to log on to ChatGPT sometimes. So what really even motivated you to want to take that next step in understanding technology even deeper, Gary?
Happy to go into that. I do have one really important question though. It's been burning in me since the last time you and I spoke.
What's that?
To the nearest 10, how many old fashions did you have on that cruise?
Oh my gosh. So probably somewhere in the area of where you listen to my podcast episode, probably somewhere in the area of 30, between 30 and 40, somewhere along the way. That's 17 days worth of drinking. It might have been closer to 40.
That's what I need to know. Okay, that's my drink as well. So
What
I'd love to talk about
what
that
type of
later.
bourbon do you use when you're making your old fashions though?
Normally I'll do like a Woodford or a Michter's, but I've been playing around with rye every now and then, which I kind of like.
Yeah, well, rye makes it, it gives it that smoky flavor that I really think an old fashioned needs. And just recently changed over from Woodford, which I was using, and Elijah Craig and some of the others, and I started using Bullet. And I'm telling you,
Oh,
Bullet
I
is a
like Bullet.
nice, smooth old fashioned. It's so
Is that
good.
what they were pouring on the ship?
That's well, they had many. I started with Woodford because that's what I typically use at home, and then I saw a Bullet sitting up on the shelf, and I never had tried that in old fashioned. And I said, "Hey, try that with the old fashioned." And Eunice, who was mixing my drinks, I got first name basis with the bartender. She started using Bullet, and man, it is a huge difference for me.
I'm gonna try that next time.
Nice, nice.
Anyway, back
Appreciate the
to your
question.
question.
No.
So, and it's an interesting question. And I think a lot of people and a lot of things I see coming out now on the tech side is tech for technology's sake. If you can imagine something, you can build it. And the problem is a lot of tech that gets built and sold is a solution looking for a problem.
Correct.
And you can make that work. You can find people that you can convince this is the greatest thing ever, and it's going to have all sorts of impact on productivity and profitability. And by the time it's institutionalized across an enterprise, everyone's looking around saying, we spent $1 billion installing XYZ. Can we point to anything other than an operating expense? And
Well,
most people are going, I don't know. It was that guy's idea. Well, now we got to buy something else and something else and something else.
right.
So, in thinking about, and I've been this way probably for quite some time, I think about the problem first. And I think about the problem areas that are preventing me from moving forward towards a very specific goal. So I start out by really crystallizing what is it I want to do? What's important to me? How do I accomplish this? For most people, it's like that goes in and out of their brain 9 times a second.
Right.
They just can't focus on what that issue is. The guy that was best at doing that I've ever seen was Steve Jobs. Um, his whole focus was the consumer. Start with solving a consumer problem and work backwards. Do it from there. But everything you do has to be from the consumer's perspective, which is why Apple is looked at in a completely different way than
Yes.
all the other tech that's out there, even though a lot of that tech does kind of the same stuff.
Well, that's like the founder's dilemma, though. It is totally the founder's dilemma is trying to find a problem that you can solve rather than throwing something out there and hopefully there's a problem that it will match up with.
It's true. And I see a lot of that right now. I mean, if I'm, trying to select a piece of software to do a certain thing, there's 15 of them out there.
Yeah.
Okay, well, they're all going to give me features and benefits of one thing or another, but, and it might facilitate what I'm trying to do, but was that built to solve a specific problem? Now, in my case, I had no intention of doing this, zero.
I
And
remember.
yeah,
I remember
without
this.
AI and vibe coding, without my ability to sketch out a framework using some coding I had no idea if this was even possible.
Hmm.
So it was like I was discovering and I posed a question. And the question was very simple. I come from the world of financial services. Every senior financial advisor's book has, let's call them two camps, the green camp and the yellow camp. In the green camp would be half the households you serve. Let's assume you serve 300 households.
Hmm.
In the green camp, you've got 150 households. Some of them have a lot of money and are very profitable. Some of them don't have a lot of money, but you love them and you're not going to get rid of them
Hmm.
because you look at your relationships, not just quantitatively. The best advisors look at them also qualitatively.
Hmm.
Do I like this person? Am I making a difference in their lives? Do they enrich me in other ways other than just financially? And those books break down into two segments. That's the green segment. The yellow segment, on the other hand, equal number of households, but is also going to have some people with a lot of money you just don't like. You just don't care. You don't
Right.
vibe with them. They're
Right.
like,
Right.
the guy's telling you stuff, and it's like, man, that's so different than what you told me last time. yeah, I'm worried about this because,
Right.
he says X, I say Y. Next thing I know, I've got a complaint on my record, which never goes away.
Right.
So what am I doing with that person? Well, odds are you took that person on in your book early in your career when you had to take on anybody that could fog a mirror or sign their name
Hmm.
to make it.
Right.
And they're still there. And you're kind of like, if they went away, you wouldn't be sad, but you're not going to proactively move them away. That yellow book, green book in two boxes absolutely prevents the best financial advisors from continuing the type of compound growth they had in their early years. The difference is that now they're able to talk to people at a much higher level, find much more high quality people, but they lack the time to focus on their best people because they've got all these other people they feel guilty or afraid to part with. So all of the books build that way. I was lucky. I had a manager going into my between my second and third year that identified I was going to work my ass off to make it no matter what.
Hmm.
I was not to be deterred. There was no plan B. I was only 26. He said, "Give me half your book." I said, "Are you fucking out of your mind? Are you nuts? What? What? No. Why would I do that?" He goes, "I know you." He said, "You're going to keep going. The problem is you're going to want to take care of everybody. You're going to burn out. You want to be one of the youngest." Back then, breaking $1 million in productivity was a big deal.
Hmm.
Now it's like, you get a bunch of balloons in a GIF coming down
Right.
your screen saying congrats.
Right. Right.
But back then it was a big deal. I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, you're not going to do it the way you're doing it." He goes, "You're carrying too many households." So we made kind of a deal that indemnified me and rewarded him if I didn't make it, or if I did. And sure enough, my productivity almost doubled the following year.
Wow.
And I never looked back. And it was because I was happy every day. I had great people I was talking to. I got along with them in ways other than just being a financial services provider and them having a need. I genuinely liked them. I could talk about fishing with one person and skiing with somebody else and flying with somebody else and golf with somebody else and, working on charitable boards with somebody else. We had these other connections. And my whole book basically evolved that way. It evolved with people that if I didn't vibe with them, I wouldn't really bring work to bring them in any kind of fashion. Most advisors weren't doing it that way. I realized as I left the business and started doing a lot of consulting that this concept of what most people think of was what's called the Pareto principle. 80% of your clients are only giving you 20% of your biz. 20, it's 20/80. That's like math for dummies. It's
Okay.
because it doesn't tell you the whole story.
Right.
Because
Right.
there's values that are intrinsic in those relationships.
Well,
So I've used,
and before you go on, let me just make an example here, just so you know. And Gary is sharing his life lessons as he's learned as a financial advisor, somebody in the financial advisory world. Keep in mind, nice guy community, that these same exact lessons, the anybody that writes a check or has a checkbook does not should not become a client. Maybe early on that was your philosophy, but now that you have a mature business, maybe it is a little bit more focus on the relationship that you have with your client or your prospective client if they fit into the culture. There are some people, Gary fits extremely well into the culture that we've created here at TurnKey. There have been many clients through the years that we've met that don't fit the culture. They're not appreciative. They don't understand the hard work that goes into it. They have no room for no margin for error. And of course, we're all human beings, and even in a technology prone world that we're living in right now, we're still going to make errors, but we capitalize on the errors that we make. Or what's the expression? It's not that errors or mistakes are bound to happen. It's what happens next that really count. It's really important to understand the relationships should drive your business, not the transaction. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt all that, but
no, you listen, I couldn't agree more. There's so many different pathways I could take just with the last 2 minutes of conversation.
right, right.
Coming back, I realized that there's a couple things going on in the background. I've been doing a lot of consulting work with advisors of my vintage who have been in the business 3 and 4 decades, who are preparing to leave the business. They have tremendous books in financial advisory. We refer to your book, which is your collection of households and your assets under management and your productivity, which you share with your firm.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of advisors out there. They've got books with 500 million in assets, 1 billion in assets, 2 billion in assets. These guys are all multimillionaires. They're making a crap ton of money and they're taking care of these really large piles of money. And what happens when they leave? Well, the firms have all put in place these sunset programs. And what they do is you figure out who your successor is going to be. And you don't know if they can make it on their own or not, but they join you. And for a few years, you work side by side. The theory
Hmm.
being that when the senior advisor steps away, that younger advisor is going to be able to maintain and continue to grow the business,
Right.
pay out the senior advisor backed up by the firm. Senior advisor rides off into the sunset. Everybody's happy. It's bullshit. It's
I
not
was
working.
gonna say
It is
it's
heading for a complete, literally existential cataclysm. I'm not one for hyperbole. You've known me a while, but this one's just look at the numbers. McKinsey did a recent study which validated everything I knew. Over the next 5 to 8 years, you've got well over 100,000 advisors, senior advisors retiring.
hmm
That's going to basically put about $20 trillion up for grabs across the major firms. The right now, 50% of that money is going to look for a new advisor because
hmm
there's no connection
right,
to somebody that's going to succeed their current advisor.
right.
90% of the advisor's heirs are going to look for new advice because there's no connectivity. Why is there no connectivity? Because each year we only have about 6 to 8 thousand advisors entering wealth management from the get-go,
Yeah,
and 80 to 90% of them are failing
yeah, yeah.
within 3 years. So they either have to go on life support from their senior advisor, who's now digging into their own pocket to keep them alive, which is just delaying the inevitable because when the senior guy retires, the junior guy, just through demographics, anybody that doesn't leave right away is going to die at some point, and the junior guy has no idea how to replace them. So there's two issues out there. One, if you've made it that far and you're running a $500 million, you shouldn't be servicing 300 households. You should be servicing 100 households.
Okay.
Because if you can focus on those 100 households, each of them probably knows 3 to 5 other people you should probably talk to. But the senior advisor has no way of finding them. The junior advisor, if you're going to call yourself that, has to have a methodology to be able to bring new business to the table. Now, when I started, you could cold call, you could do a bunch of stuff. Cold calling's off the table now. People just hang up on you. So LinkedIn, people they just bomb people with messages on LinkedIn.
Right. We've all been on the
Right.
side of that, receiving side of that.
So cold outreach has a 2 to 3% response rate.
Hmm.
Now, of that response rate, you might be lucky if you convert maybe 5% of that 2 to 3%
Yeah.
to a client, and you don't know if you like them or not.
Right. Right.
So I started to think about it, and I said, wouldn't it be great if we could pre-identify prospects that we've already got connections to, even though we don't know them? In other words, we share common values, common mores, common interests, and things like that. And I've always been fascinated by human behavior. It's my major in college, abnormal human behavior, which, by the way, definitely sets you up for this career.
For sure.
So I started to think about um, my experiences with how people fall into different categories. And I've always felt pretty aligned with the work that Carl Jung has done. Carl Jung was a psychiatrist and psychologist in Switzerland that basically developed this concept of individual archetypes, 12 major archetypes: ruler, jester, caregiver, educator. There's 12 of them.
Hmm.
And you can actually, if you read all of them, you can say, I'm kind of that person, or
Right.
I'm sort of that person, I'm kind of that guy, or this guy. But it's amazingly accurate. If you don't fall into any of the archetypes, basically you're a sociopath, so stay away from those people. And I know a few of them. But the major archetypes are pretty solid. Carl Jung published a journal some years ago called the Red Book. The Red Book is a complete collection of his works. It came to the States and was published here, I think 20 or 25 years ago.
Hmm.
And the person that facilitated that publication was a Jungian therapist by the name of Dr. Stephen Martin. So if you just say it's Steve Martin, everybody cracks up, but that's his
Got it.
real name.
Right.
Wonderful man, brilliant. So I got a copy of the Red Book in PDF, and I said, okay, so I don't want to read this whole thing. So what's the best tool out there to be able to answer some questions about the Red Book?
Right.
So I uploaded the Red Book into an AI tool for free called LM Notebook. It's a Google product.
Hmm.
I had no experience doing this whatsoever. I said, what the hell? I'll give it a try.
Right.
And it uploaded the whole thing and it started telling me all this stuff about the Red Book. And then I said, let me upload some of the things that I've done to train financial advisors. So I started uploading PowerPoint documents. It was like, yeah, got it.
Hmm.
Cool. Good. What else you got? Blah, blah, blah. All right, what questions do you have? Hypothetically, if I wanted to do the following, would you be able to get questions related as a financial advisor that you could ask me, which would put me into one of the 12 archetypes? And it comes back. It's very complimentary. Great idea, Gary. No problem at all. Here's some sample questions. An hour later, I had like 13 questions, multiple choice answers.
That will help determine what of the archetypes this answer, the asker of the or the answer of the questions would fit into.
Correct.
Okay, got
Right.
it. So you're now matching some personality types with archetypes.
Exactly. So I said, okay, that's kind of cool. Here's what I'm thinking about. On the other side, if I gave you a list of professions, would you be able to, using your own research, figure out the predominant archetypes that gravitate towards each profession?
Right.
I was like, oh, that's an interesting idea. It like talks to you. And it's like, yeah, we can do that. And it starts to do that. I'm like, whoa, this is kind of cool. What would I do if I wanted to develop a scoring system to work this side with an archetype and look for alignment at the professional level? Would you be able to do that? And it comes back and it says, well, I can't produce the code that would do that, but here are the questions you should ask. And there are many coding platforms out there you can try that can probably put this together for you. We would recommend Lovable. You don't need to know anything about code. Give Lovable a try.
So we're trying
I've
to
been
match,
talking.
just so I got this right, we're trying to match from a professional perspective, an advisor with the right archetype of a prospective customer so that we can see if there is a match between those
That's
two.
correct.
Got it.
Right.
Got it.
So I copy the entire conversation in plain English, I copy the entire conversation from LM Notebook and I sign up on lovable.ai. And lovable.ai starts spitting out code and starts spitting out a user interface.
Hmm.
And I'm watching this code develop. It's like, you should store your code on a third-party database.
Hmm.
What do you think about for sale? And I type in, I have no idea what for sale is. It starts explaining to me about platforming this thing. And over the next 3 to 5 months, I moved from Lovable to a different coding platform, which I'll describe. But every time I got kind of stuck, I would move to a more advanced coding platform until I finally developed this product that was actually working.
So again, just want to recap, just so my listening audience doesn't zone out here. So what Gary is doing is he's telling you, he's explaining to you the early formation of how the problem that he was seeing in the world of financial advising was translated to a solution using AI and using technology as the tool. And he's trial and erroring through using different platforms to see how this all will come together. And so far, this is where we are in the conversation.
And it's exactly right. And the further I dug into it, the more I learned, the further I could dig. I did have to understand coding at a base. I had to understand how GitHub worked. I had to understand how backend databases worked. I have lexicon in my vocabulary now I've never had in my entire life, like Vite and local server and all these things. But I've always been inquisitive about those things. You wake up, I don't know what I'm going to learn today, but I know I'm not done. And one
Okay,
of the
so
things I would express to anybody like this, as you get older, you realize how much you don't know.
that's
It's much
wisdom.
bigger than what you
Wisdom,
do.
wisdom is not wasted on the elderly or the wise. What's interesting about it is, oftentimes when somebody comes onto the show and they start describing how their business is put together and the process that they go through, it's kind of like sharing with me how the sausage is made. And I'm in some particular cases, I'm like, I don't care how the sausage is made. I just want to know that it works. But in your particular case, it's fascinating the early stage of you building this because I remember watching you and hearing your excitement as we kept having these conversations a year plus ago about this idea that you have and all of the people that you've met, whether through your podcast or through networking, that have come into your sphere of influence and your circle of wise folks that you've met. And it is amazing to watch the growth that you've experienced. Now, where are you overall in the process of getting this product to the market? Because oftentimes entrepreneurs are thinking, "Hey, this is great, but how do we actually make a fucking product out of what you got going on?"
So prior to doing that, I needed validation. So the first thing I did was I validated with some of my financial advisor clients
Hmm.
and ran some live testing with them. They went nuts. They
Mm.
were like, when do I get this?
Right, right.
Especially with some of my younger guys. So I said, okay, let me come back to you. I then went to a professor of financial technology at Duke, who's a close personal friend. I described the AI I was using. I told him about some of the algorithms that were designed. He went through the roof. He said, that is the smartest use of I have ever heard.
Mm.
Would you be interested in being one of our capstone projects for our graduate students this year? And I'm like, sure. So I had a first semester with Duke University grad students doing background research, software research, market research, and I'm going into the next semester as well. And that professor is now on my advisory team. I then took it to my friend Steve Martin, the psychologist who brought
Hmm.
Young in,
Hmm.
and I demonstrated it. He started giggling. He goes, boy, he goes, I never thought of a commercial application for I wish I would have thought of this sooner. I said, you want to be on the advisory team? He said, sure. Great. Now I got that. Now I've got to make it real. And I didn't want to spend $100,000 in legal work. So I
Right.
found a collection of attorneys, and I sent out a very brief sample of what I was doing with a description. And I got incredibly lucky because the senior tech attorney at a huge law firm in Denver got back to me on a Sunday. Sounds really good. I want to learn more. Davis and Graham is now my corporate counsel. They've incorporated me at Archematch Inc. Um, they have written a patent with 132 claims, which
Oh,
is now filed. They have designed my initial fundraising round, which I'm about to launch, to raise some seed money to start to bring in my initial clients. And I'm currently in discussions with Morgan Stanley, and we'll start after the first of the year with Merrill Lynch about doing an enterprise-wide test. So I'm
wow.
pretty stoked.
That is stoked worthy. It's, small organizations like Merrill Lynch and Morgan Stanley. You could have shot for some big boys, but I understand that you got to
That's
start
my
small.
world.
So
That's where I
you
grew
got
up.
to start small somewhere.
Yeah.
So I guess at a point where you decided that the financial advisory world was you were past that, you didn't want to do that anymore. What gave you like the energy or the desire to, I guess, come out of retirement or whatever it was that you would call that? Why was it that you wanted I guess an ambitious person is always ambitious, but why not? I mean, you were highly successful in that world. Why not just, be in Vail, stay at your home, ski, play tennis, play golf, do the things that you want, go fishing, but you decided that you wanted to stay in the, in the game a little bit longer. What was that about?
Two issues. I can't shut my brain off and I can't keep my mouth shut.
Okay.
So when I was at Merrill, um, very successful, the woman that ran training asked me what I thought of the training program I was currently attending, and I told her the truth. It didn't work.
Hmm.
And she challenged me, you think you can do better? I'm thinking to myself, I can't do worse. So we put a pilot training program together that myself and one other fellow, Bob Payne, it ran for 12 years.
Hmm.
And while it didn't really facilitate the growth of my advisory business, even though it continued to grow, the smiles and the recognition on the people's faces when I explained to them as a peer, look, you don't have to bang your head into the wall. There's another way to do business. I'm not telling you it's the only way, but this is the direction we're going. And over a 3-month program with follow-ups, the program was incredibly successful. A lot of my clients today are former advisors I met at Merrill. And that was a big problem to solve, and I enjoyed solving it and keeping it solved. Now I'm looking at this other problem that is moving towards the industry, which dwarfs the problem I originally worked on, which was transitioning your book from transactions and commissions to getting paid for advice and wisdom.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole industry figured that out. Merrill was very much ahead of the game, and it wasn't just me. Merrill really believed in peer-based training. back in the day. But now I look at this problem, and to my way of thinking, coming into financial advisory at anywhere in your 20s is without a doubt, if you're cut out for it, the greatest opportunity anyone could ever have. It's just the math and the numbers and the opportunity for the amount of people that are going to be looking for new advice and new advisors, the amount of books that are being put up for sale to younger advisors that know what they're doing. It's extraordinary. I mean, it's just, I wish I had a time machine to go back and do it again. But the issue is that entry level coming in those first 3 to 4 years, these people are crapping out at an 80 to 90% rate because they have no idea
Right, right.
how to accomplish what guys like me did, which is you got to go build it on your own and prove you can do it on your own. Because if you can't build it on your own, no matter what somebody gives you, they're just going to go away.
Well,
So
it
this
seems
is the
like
tool that goes after that.
it seems like the financial advisory world, very similar to running any business, no matter what the tool is that you are, whether it's podcast production, being a mechanic in a garage, being a plumber, or anything that you do, it is a world of relationships. It's not a world of transactions. And I think so many people, I mean, if I had to go back and do it all over again, I'm always very interested in, I'm not a math guy, but I love numbers. I love budgets. I love financial advice. I love helping my friends that don't have HSAs, don't have, any pre-tax programs, any 401ks, any IRAs, anything. I love talking about that stuff. I'd go back and do that all over again. Even as a 61-year-old, I'd go and start that world. If I had the wherewithal to pass those freaking tests, I would do it. But you're right. I think it's an area where the upside is huge. I mean, you can make a ton of money and you can do it your way and you can build some amazing relationships that will last you basically your entire lifetime if you handle the relationships right.
No question about it. And the younger relationships, if you've got a client, most of my clients were older than me. And if you can't establish relationships with their kids, that money's going to go when the clients pass away.
Right, right.
So you've got, potential catastrophe. So I work with a lot of what I call vertical teams. Senior advisor, they're terrified because the junior advisor, who's been paid by the firm for the first 2 or 3 years, all of a sudden is going to come off their dime. In other words,
Mm,
they're going to take book equity and pay them.
right.
And I tell them that is the dumbest thing you can possibly do. You're going to get stuck. You're going to age out. Your junior advisor's not going to know what to do, and everybody's going to leave. Your legacy's going to walk away. So in all cases, and Doug, I know you've been through it. Anybody that's ever done anything where relationships matter has been through it. You got to get your knuckles skinned. You got to,
Hmm.
scrape your knees. You got to get
Yeah,
knocked down. Just get back up. It's simple. Get up again
yeah.
and figure out what you did wrong. Go do something else. So this app that I built, the first phase will be to tell you who and why. A lot of stuff out there can identify people who have money, they can identify people that are in transactions, but they can't create why would this person want to connect with you? The app will figure that out at a high level. It will then run an alignment matrix to see, oh, this guy golfs like crazy. You love golf. This guy skis. You ski. It'll really start to dig in.
Hmm.
And then it's actually going to come in and manufacture three different types of outreach messages where you can set the tone. We literally write the letters for you.
That's great.
And it's like, Dear Doug, I noticed, I've been following you for a while. I noticed you're doing this and doing that. We're going to connect on a different level. I'd love to talk to you about your interviewing style because I know mine can always improve. Now, you may get back to me because maybe you think, oh, all right, maybe I can get Gary as a client. But in the very least, you and I are going to have a good conversation.
Right, right.
And I'm probably not even going to mention money. And at some point, you're going to say, hey, I noticed you do this, that, or the other thing. What do you look for? And that's the beginning of the conversation. But we've got a baseline that we've established a connection.
Right.
That's what this app does.
Nice, nice. And go back for just a second. One of the things that you talked about is some of the advice that you might give yourself as a younger advisor. Talk to my entrepreneurs that are maybe in the early phase of growing their business. What are some of the things that they don't want to lose sight of as they are in the early stage of building their business themselves?
I think you have to look at it the way Jobs looked at it. Identify the problem first. Make sure the problem is growing.
Hmm.
Solutions that have been applied to that problem cannot be measured in their viability or efficacy. And you've got to be able to address the problem from a solid foundation of domain knowledge. There's another outfit out there that's claiming to use some AI, and it's just a good data sort. It's more of data as a service called AI
Hmm.
Identified. And they're doing okay. I mean, they've raised a couple of rounds. But when I look at them, fine, I can get names of people that, I probably identify as having money. But the founders are tech guys. They're not financial advisors. So what they don't have is, well, why would
Right,
they respond
right, right.
to an outreach from me if there's no connectivity? Because the data is readily available. They're getting knocked on all day. But if I reach out to them and say, I notice you serve on the charitable board of X, Y, and Z. I'm in charge of fundraising for charitable board A, B, and C. I'd love to talk to you about what your commitment is and how you approach these things. Is that person going to respond? Maybe.
Right.
Do I have a better shot of a response because I'm attacking or going down a vector where their passions are identified? Definitely.
Yeah, I think about
It's the
that all the
numbers game.
time.
So
Yeah.
find the problem and make sure your approach to the problem hasn't been tried. Build your solution, test it, get a little traction, improve it, test it again. And at that point, you can start to see if you can sell it. The key to it is, will someone pay you money
Hmm.
for that solution? Doesn't matter if it's two people or 10 people. And
Yeah.
then you start to optimize it from there.
Yeah, when we started TurnKey, I think about this, almost 10 years ago, when we started TurnKey, we were solving a problem of, people that had less time, they had more money, they were okay with spending some money on things like podcast production. And we realized that it was for a specific niche of the market. We weren't looking for the guy that wanted to spend $50 an episode on podcast production. We were looking for somebody that really wanted their hand held through the process, not only of launching the podcast, but then doing production, doing show notes, doing social media collateral, doing video now is a huge part of today's outreach and audience growth. So there's so many things that we looked for problems, like you said in the very beginning. We thought we knew what the problem was, and it ended up being a flop of an idea. And after about 3 or 4 months, Strick and I said, idea isn't working. Why don't we figure out what our audience wants? What problem can we solve? And you're 100% right. You don't want to just throw up a bunch of stuff on the wall and see what sticks. You want to approach it, attack it from what problem are we solving? And that has always worked for Turnkey.
And I didn't realize when I started working with you that the guests that you would help facilitate have been completely instrumental and I would say critical in allowing me to develop this offering that I'm about to launch and to refine the product because I have had a lot of founders. I've had a lot of guys that have done exits. I've had people
Yeah.
on the show. Mark Rampala was
Yeah.
a tremendous help to me. I mean, he's a mid-tier VC, but he decided one day, you can sell coconut water in a box. And
Right.
next thing you know, but the story of how he built Zico was fascinating,
Great guess. I had him on Nice Guys and
unbelievable.
several others too.
And I took lessons from that, and we got off the phone, and he gave me some great guidance on what I was building. There's a thing about what's called founder's creep. You have a great idea, and all of a sudden you want to expand it this, that, and the other way. And it's like, no, no, no. That's your idea. Get that thing anchored
Right.
first
Right.
and go from there. And other guests as well. So my association with you has really allowed me to learn a lot more about the entrepreneur's journey than I ever would have known. This is literally my first time on the other side of the table.
Mm,
As a financial advisor, yeah, you're an entrepreneur, but you've got things that are very well defined.
right.
You've
Right.
got your product set. You just got to go find people to talk to. Building a business from scratch, different world.
Whole different
But
world.
yeah, your guidance and introductions have been instrumental, which means if it doesn't work, I'm blaming you.
I was gonna say, wait a minute. I don't. That's a lot
You
of pressure.
screwed
That's a
me,
lot of risk.
Doug.
Well, we've had many clients that have come through the turnkey turnstile, and unfortunately, a lot of people, and again, make this the 80/20 rule probably for this. You can tell somebody, hey, look, stop focusing just for a moment on audience growth and getting that anonymous audience member to take action. Yes, you can do that. It's a long way to be successful at podcasting. But if you look at it and say, hey, look, what am I in control of? I'm in control of who sits in that guest seat. I'm excited. I'm in control of the questions that I ask them, and I'm in control of the follow up that I'm doing with them. And so for me, over 1,600, almost 1,700 episodes now, 1,000 of which have been interview episodes, my most profitable opportunities have come not from my audience, but actually from my guest seat. And so I keep sharing that with people. And it's like, hey, look, I could tell you that until I'm blue in the face, but unless you get it, which you get it, it's very hard to be successful at something that you don't get. You understand where the success comes from in your podcast, and you lean into that rather than resist it every step of the way. So hats off to you. There's several people that are on our client list that have had very similar experiences. Phil Fernaro from Lightbulb Moments. You, of course, have had that experience. Eric Dyson from more than a fiduciary. Several of our clients have had this experience, and like hats off to you, Gary, for actually recognizing it and excelling at it too.
Well, I tell you the truth, Doug, I wasn't sure, but I had a good vibe about the whole thing. And then when we transitioned from just focusing on wealth management to
Yeah,
really the entrepreneur's journey,
right.
then I realized there's larger forces at work here. And it was, all of these interviews I've been doing have been incredibly consistent. So I'll give you a very good example. The
Yeah.
show is, I haven't even uploaded it yet. Catherine Bell,
Uh-huh.
who was just an absolute pleasure to talk to. We're going through it and we're getting into the difference between Jungian psychology and Enneagrams. She's very
Hmm.
much into Enneagrams, which has a close relationship.
Right.
She's got such a broad exposure to people. So I had briefly mentioned kind of the app I was working on. And after the show was concluded, I said, "Do you want to see it?" She was, "Oh, I'd love to see it." So I started to show her a few things and she's like staring at it and she said, "So tell me about your patent." I said, "Well, the title of the patent is identifying a professional prospect." She goes, "So what else are you thinking about doing with this?" And I said, "Well, financial advisor recruiting, executive recruiting, real estate." She goes, "I was in executive recruiting for 20 years."
Mm,
She goes, "I would have killed for something like this."
yeah, yeah.
She said, "Are you going to develop that?" I said, "Yeah, it's probably about a year from now, assuming I'm here." And she goes, "Oh, and by the way, my husband is a former VC and software tech developer. Can I show this to him?" And I was like, "Yeah." So I sent her the links.
Awesome.
I don't know what's going to happen,
Well, we
but
never do. I mean, I think about that all the time. All these great conversations that I've had, or these great interviews that I've had follow-up conversations with, we don't know where it's going to go. But if you're looking for opportunity and you just open your mind up to it, you will find the opportunity right in that guest seat and with the people that are coming in connection with your podcast as well.
and just to put a little bit of frosting on that last question, um, if you're a founder, it's lonely. It really is.
Mm,
And you've got to make certain that you recognize there's going to be some days where you just, why am I doing this? I could, so many other things I could be doing.
right.
But you've got to go back and recognize the reactions that people that may know you a little bit, but not all that well, have had to your idea, but they know the problem you're trying to solve. And when you see their eyes go up on the top of their head, because those are your eventual customers, that's what's got to keep you moving forward.
Right. Right.
It's not easy, but so far so good.
Great advice, man. And so appreciate you sharing a lot of the how the sausage was made, because I think in this particular case there's so much interesting substance to it. It's not just, hey, and you're not a 20 something. The fact that you embraced AI, as a guy that's post success, you don't need this. You have decided that you want to lean into it, and you're doing it and doing it well, and that's got to be super exciting, and keeps you young, keeps you excited about life, and keeps you in the right spot, I would think.
I don't know where it all goes. I do know that If you're afraid of AI, don't be. A couple of good starter tools you can work with. First, they'll all listen to you. You can just talk to them.
Hmm.
ChatGPT has this amazingly seductive British voice. She understands me better than my wife. Um, Claude is another one I use every day.
Right,
That's an Anthropic product. Those two I lean into. They're great. You can ask them questions in plain English.
right,
And
right.
if you just say, I don't know what you mean, they'll back it down. I'm always polite to them just in case the singularity occurs. I want them to know I was always nice. But don't be afraid of them.
Great
Just
advice.
play with it. They're playthings for your brain.
Hey, Gary, if somebody wanted to get information about how you do what you do, I want to give you an opportunity to promote whatever it is that you want to share with our audience. Where can they go to see more or hear more about you?
So, two areas. Um, if you have financial advisors listening to this, I am going to take on a few more clients and then stop, so I can focus on Archematch. But if you're in the financial advisory world, especially if you're senior, check me out on betterpathtraining.com. It's all one long word. If you don't know who I am, you can figure it out from there.
Hmm.
But if you're interested in how to build something and how I built something extraordinarily cool, you can go up on archematch.com, ARCHEMATCH.com. That will take you to the problem description, the solution we're designing. You can take a look at the pitch deck, and there's a demo reel up there. And if you want to go even further and come in and look at my data room where the offering is, we're currently raising, just about to launch, to raise a $1.8 million seed round. And I'm not using a valuation. I'm using what's called a safe note, which means that whoever invests now will own shares 25% less than what my price round would be, which won't be for a year to 18 months.
Right.
So it's a way that I can make sure my investors are cared for. You've got to be an accredited investor. So it's for people that have done this kind of thing before. And my disclaimer is be prepared to lose all your money because you have to say that in any startup.
Right. Right.
Uh, do I think I could happen? No, but you have to be prepared for it. So arcmatch.com, you can find out all about what I built. And so far it's been quite the run. Pretty cool stuff.
I've watched you go from excited to just over the top excited about this product that you're putting out over the last year plus that we've had a chance to get to know each other. It's very cool to watch the formation of this. Every time we meet, yeah, we maybe spend 5 minutes talking about podcasting, but we spend the rest of the time talking about just the business that you're growing, and that's very cool. I love when success happens to people that I like, and I'm glad that it's happening with you, Gary. Thanks for being here
No,
on the
Doug,
show
you've
today.
definitely been you have been an instrumental gear in me being able to move this to the spot I want to. And I really do appreciate your guidance and advice because it's not something I ever expected when you and I first started talking to each other. But I realized, after talking to you for 20 minutes, I got to stick around with Doug. It can help.
It's more than podcasting. It's more than about podcasting. And I keep telling people that, but some people just don't get it. It's like, how do I reach more of my market? I'm like, no, that's the wrong question. It's like, how do I talk to the right people that have had the
Yeah,
experiences that I can benefit from?
absolutely.
For all those in our listening audience, all of those links that Gary just mentioned, we'll make sure that we put them in the show notes. We so appreciate you being on the show. Thanks for being here, Gary, and thanks for sharing your wisdom and your motivation behind it today on the Nice Guys on Business
It's a
podcast.
pleasure. And Doug, you're going to be on mine pretty soon.
I
We're
love
going
it.
to talk to you.
I am ready. I forgot that I have do we have that scheduled already?
No, but you
Oh,
have the link, so I
all
know
right.
you've
I
got it.
do. Wait, I didn't even know that. All right, we'll talk about that
Ashley
after I
has the
stop
link.
recording. Nice
There
guy
you go.
community, never underestimate the power of nice again. Special thanks to Gary Sinderbrand. All of his information, including access to his website and all the stuff that we talked about in today's podcast, will be right there in the show notes. Steve O'Brien, go ahead and take us out of here.
For the Nice Guys on Business, I'm Steve O'Brien. Fill up your week with the nice guys. Trust me, this is going to hurt me a lot less than it's going to hurt you.